Hello and welcome to Does Super Rugby or New Zealand Rugby really need fixing? Because you know what, we hear lots of people coming out with, oh, Super Rugby should like this, should rugby like that. And obviously JK was the latest one recently who came out with a proposal for fixing Super Rugby. And now to me, when you talk about fixing rugby in New Zealand or Super Rugby, there are two sides that we need to look at when asking that question. There's the playing or performance side of things, which includes playing stocks as well as team performances. And the other side is the finances, which includes attendance and viewing numbers, as that drives what will come in from sponsorship, etc., TV rights, blah, blah, blah. So those are the two sides we're going to look at. First off, the playing performance side. If we look at that side of things, the All Blacks number one in the world, they lose one or two games a year for the last decade or so. And over the last 7 years, Super Rugby has been won by 4 different New Zealand franchises 6 times, or 6 times over the last 7 years by 4 different. So the only side that hasn't been performing are the Blues, and we've just seen Auckland win the Mitre Cup. So the biggest city in New Zealand could be about to have a resurgence. You never know. There are still players going overseas, as there always is, showing that the player pathways are also functioning just fine. So from a player point of view, everything looks great, to be honest with you, and doesn't really need fixing. Now, why is it working? It's something that people around the world constantly ask, why are the All Blacks so good? One reason that's kind of never mentioned, though, is number of games that all players get to play, not just the All Blacks. We quite often hear about the player welfare from an All Blacks point of view, but not from the other players. In England, they've just agreed a new limit to the number of games players can play, which is coming down from 32 to 30. If you compare that to players in New Zealand who are playing closer to 20 games a season, you can see there's a player welfare side of things. And by having the Super Rugby and Club Rugby running concurrently, then International and Mitre 10 Cup running concurrently, all players get that playing time. In Europe, they're trying to reduce the club international overlaps, which will see a few top players play more and other players just not get enough rugby, really. So the balance and the structure that New Zealand has is working very well. People do talk about restructuring Super Rugby, but as far as producing players, there's nothing wrong with it, wrong with the current setup. The one big issue was the break in the season for the June tests, but we aren't going to have that again. The Rugby World Cup means there's no June test next year, and then after that the global calendar moves the games to July, rather than allowing Super Rugby to happen in one consecutive slot. So from a playing performance point of view, there's nothing that needs fixing. It's all working well. Are there incremental changes? Are there things you can learn from and improve? Absolutely. But as far as any actual big change, no, it's all good. Finances, though. On the financial side, New Zealand has done well since professionalism, let's be honest. Sure, there have been blips along the way, but if you compare them to, say, Australia, Wales and Scotland, those blips have been relatively minor. The way that New Zealand Rugby has managed its finances has been to grow and then leverage the All Blacks brand. The problem is that has gone as far as it can go, and the forecast is for unsustainable losses going forwards. Hence, we've seen we've mentioned about trying to get money out of government funding, etc. While New Zealand Rugby has concentrated on the All Blacks, though, Super Rugby and the NPC or Mitre 10 Cup have dropped in popularity, and so has also has the income. This means that everything below the All Blacks has to be sustained by the All Blacks, and that's probably never going to change, to be honest with you. As we see similar situations in other countries, in Ireland, for example, the national team brings in all the cash. The same applies in England, where the national team subsidise or money comes from the RFU to the clubs through that from the national team. France is perhaps the one place where the club's game could perhaps sustain itself, but it still gets money handed down as well. So that's not going to change, but the level of subsidy is something that does need to change, because otherwise the All Blacks otherwise New Zealand Rugby is going to go bankrupt. As I said before, the structure is right for producing players and teams, so the solution isn't necessarily changing those structures, but improving the marketing of them. So finances is an area that does need fixing or does need work on and it needs a long-term solution. It's not something that can be fixed overnight. It's not just there's no silver bullet. It's not just one fix for this. It's something that, and if there's something I don't mention, then please do let us know in the comments below your thoughts as to how we can improve the marketing and the income side of things for New Zealand Rugby. One of the things I will say here is actually just talking about it from a financial point of view isn't a good way to go about it. And we've seen Taranaki make that mistake this season at the beginning, talking about fans going to come along, we're going to make money out of it, while we've got the Shield, it's a good time for us to make some revenue. They got the whole, the optic was totally wrong there. They should have been talking about celebrating the Shield and coming along, and then the finances would look after themselves afterwards. Whilst the finances are, it's a bit like winning. You want your team to win, but if you talk to some of the top coaches, they'll talk about, we'll concentrate on the processes, and then the winning will look after itself. Again, if we concentrate on getting the fans in and increasing attendances, the finances will look after themselves. So that's how I think we should concentrate on this. So my action plan, the overall idea, is to grow the number of people attending games. This should also grow the number of people watching games on TV as they watch their team for the away games. They can't travel away like you can in other countries, potentially. And also watch other games that impact their team in that competition. So I've got a 3-point plan. Make going to the rugby a special family time again. Connect with the community and create a social buzz around the game, or a social media buzz around the game. So how do we go about doing that? Number one, making going to the rugby special family time again. What I would do is I think we should offer all the schools free physical education programs that are rugby centric. The unions would provide the PE teachers free of charge to run these in the school all year round. And then obviously these teachers would, as part of the sessions, tell the kids how their local team has gone on the weekend and keep them up to date with what's going on in their local teams. Give the kids all a t-shirt in the provincial colours, their province. Also give the kids a voucher for a free junior season pass if an adult buys a half-price season pass. The adult pass would only be valid if they went to the game with the child, and if the child wasn't there, they'd have to pay a top-up. This is a slow burn, I get that, but it will help make the weekend games something that the family go along to, and it's something once you get it into someone's culture and their tradition, it's something that they do all the time, their habit. Then they'll keep going even when they've left school with their dad, granddad, or grandma, mum, etc. It's one of those sort of things. I think that would go a long way to improving attendances. Next up, we need to connect with the community. There's a lot of club players in the Mitre 10 Cup, and there's a lot of local players still in Super Rugby as well. So I reckon that they should have quick 2-minute videos of each of the players, especially the club players rather than necessarily Super Rugby players, covering how they got into rugby, which school they went to, which iwi they're part of, what other social groups they're part of, and just showing their connection and where they're from in the community. Also, what jobs do they do outside of rugby? Share these interviews with the schools, the iwi, etc., and they'll share them on social media with all the parents and all the kids at the school. They'll use them in social media assemblies. They'll put them on their Facebook page, and then each week send an email or a Facebook message, however the school wants to communicate, letting them know if their player is, or if one of their alumni is playing that weekend. Again, it's something that can be talked about in school assemblies. It creates that link. Will all schools buy into it? Maybe not, but the ones that do, it'll the people in the school, people in the iwi, people in those communities will connect closer with the players that are actually playing on the park, and they'll turn up. That'll increase the amount of interest, which increases the chance of them actually turning up and paying attention to the games as well. Now, the reason I've said 2-minute 2-minute videos is that's what works on Facebook. Videos over 2 minutes just don't get watched on Facebook on the whole. So I have done some research around behind this as well. If you want to know the link's in my blog article, and I'll put the link below in the comments, so you can go and listen to the podcast that talks about why that is. Thirdly, so that's about bringing more families to the games. It's about connecting with the community, getting the community to know what's going on, who the players are, making those connections. Next, create a social media buzz or social buzz around the game. Look, the mainstream media has been bashing the sports for years. So rather than just giving them the press access, what I think they should also do is encourage and support social media pundits who are positive about rugby. You might be saying, oh, Paul, this is just what's in it for you. And yeah, there is a certain element of that. Yes, it would help me grow and help other people grow, but it's about being positive about rugby and causing that buzz on social media. Actively go out and invite social media pundits to have media accreditation, to attend games. Have a blogger's bench or a section in the Mitre Cup and the All Blacks email newsletters to help promote those that are talking positive stuff about rugby. Help grow their audiences, and that will help grow, help positive messages get shared more, and it's not just going to be a moan fest about referees all the time. Let's get some more positive messages out there in social media. Provide footage to the accredited YouTubers. If you look at something like the NBA, they're quite happy for people to take clips of games and put them out on social media. Because they know that actually that if you give all these teasers to people, people will actually watch the live game on TV. So it's actually good for Sky, it's good for the TV companies to allow YouTubers and other GIF makers, etc., to use the content. So if you're worried about how it's going to get used, fine, just at least allow some accredited ones, some YouTubers who you know will use it properly, allow them to use that content. Let's produce more of that viral kind of stuff. And again, put out short videos from training sessions and from post-match interviews. There's one that I did prior to the Mitre Cup that's reached nearly 1,000 people. I've only got like a couple of hundred, 150 people liking my Facebook page, but I say it reached over 1,000 people because it was short, it was digestible, people shared it. It doesn't have to be highly edited. I say that's my blog post. You can go and watch. You can go and have a look at that. You can go have a look at it on my Facebook page. So these are my ideas to increase attendance, and then with attendance, you're going to increase the finances of the Super Rugby clubs and the Mitre Cup provinces. They're not immediate fixes. They're going to take time, but anything that's worth doing does take time. It's not something that will happen overnight. Please put your thoughts down below of any other ideas you have as well, and hopefully we can come up with a whole bunch of ideas we can take to, or we can suggest to New Zealand Rugby. Hopefully they're listening around this kind of stuff, because I really do. It's been a real privilege. I've really enjoyed going to the Mitre Cup. I reckon I went to probably more games than anybody else, except perhaps some of the Sky staff. I went to 8 provinces and attended 19 games. That's more than the players go to. So yeah, no, it was a real privilege to do it. I really enjoyed it, and I want to get more people enjoying it. It's a great competition, and I'd like to see bigger crowds at it. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. I say, performance, playing side, nothing wrong, folks. We don't need to restructure Super Rugby or whatever. We just need to market it better. We need to be positive about it in the press. We need to not bash it all the time, and people will come and watch it. It's a great product. It's a really good thing. So please do subscribe up there to my channel, so you get all my videos. Down there I'm going to put onto my All Blacks edition channel as well, because for All Blacks comments as we're talking about New Zealand Rugby. And up here and down here are 2 videos that if you've got this far, you will absolutely enjoy.